Hi, it's Jo here at Willie Cottage, and believe it or not, it is only 10:30 in the morning. We're just hitting, I would say, a quarter way into this storm that's hitting the UK now. It's Tuesday morning, so I always do my videos the day before. So yeah, so we haven't even peaked here yet, but it's torrential. I've still got to go out and feed my ducks yet. So it'll be wrapped up in the fisherman's coat, won't it, Iona? Yes, it will. So today is day 8 Advent. So I have had a sneak. Obviously I've had to take a picture, haven't I? I have had a sneak at it. And guess what? It's not BFL. So today we have got lavender. It's big, it's bouncy, it's soft and it's fluffy. There we go. So, if no one's ever ordered my Christmas Advents before, and I do the exact, I'm sure I do the same amount of weight for the Easter bundle sets as well. Or is it 20 grams? Well, everything you get in your daily Advents is 25 grams. The locks are 25 grams and the bats are 25 grams. And if there's braids in there, they'll all be 25 grams as well. And then the Christmas Day one is 100 grams, which I cannot wait to get opened and spun up. But those that shall not be named already know what's going on with the Christmas bats this year. So yeah, there it is in all its glory. So it's got loads of different tones in there. It's got hints of lavender, hints of lilac, hints of mauve, not quite pink, but it's more of a purpley pink. So I suppose that's the mauve really. And it's got hints of whites in there as well, and it's got some sparkle in it. I can never get, oh, I think we just caught it on the light then. So in today's, it's called Lavender on number 8. It has got Rambouillet, Merino, Angelina and Silk. And there's a coloured silk in there as well as hand-dyed silk. But yeah, can you just see that there sparkling? And fuchsia, is it fuchsia Angelina I've put in this. So I'm going to, today, I've been for a route upstairs and I've done plying and I've done core spinning and then into coils and I've done fractal and I've done end to end. So today I thought I will do some lock spinning. So this is Fen on my website and it's Teeswater long locks. So I'm going to spin and add in my first cut Teeswater locks in this, and then I'm going to apply it with this oh crikey, linen yarn. Do you know, I lost the word then, my brain's not working. So yeah, so I've got some linen yarn that I'm gonna just do a nice gentle ply with it afterwards. So I've brought Freya out today, so you'll have to excuse her, she's a little bit dirty. Oh, try not. Oh, there we go, so Freya is down on the floor today. She is the one that's going to be doing all the work today. I'm just going to sit here and spin up some of these with this and then ply it off. So I've got some more ghost stories from Scotland today, so I hope you enjoy them and follow along spinning with me or whatever you're doing, sat there just having a cup of coffee and taking 10 minutes out of your day. Thank you very much for watching me and supporting me. You can, just below where you see the thumbs underneath the video, hit that one that's pointing upwards for like, if you wouldn't mind. I'd really appreciate it. It just helps other people find me on YouTube as well. But yeah, so I'll stop whinging and I'll get on with this spinning. See you on the other side. So I'm going to start off with a couple of stories that veer around Edinburgh Castle. So the legend of the little drummer boy goes back to 1650 when his headless ghost was spotted playing an old Scottish war tune over the battlements. His spirit appeared when Oliver Cromwell's men were laying siege to the castle, therefore giving credence to the belief that the boy appears when it's under attack. Nobody knows who this apparition could be, but anyone living today who hasn't witnessed this phenomenon, as Edinburgh Castle hasn't been under threat since the Jacobite uprising in 1745. So, the Piper's ghost. Several centuries ago, a secret network of tunnels was discovered underneath Royal Mile that went from the castle towards Holyrood Palace. To find out where they led, the brave souls of the time sent a young piper boy to search for the tunnels. He set about playing his bagpipes, and the people above followed the sound. The sound was clear for a time, until the bagpipes stopped abruptly near Troon Kirk on the Royal Mile. Several search parties were sent down to locate the boy, but the poor piper boy was nowhere to be found. Disturbed by the boy's disappearance, the city council ordered that the tunnels be sealed, never to be reopened. Since his disappearance, the little boy playing his bagpipes can be heard from underneath the Royal Mile. Visitors still report this phenomenon to this day. The Grey Lady, or Janet Douglas, Lady of Glamis. The story of Janet is a tragic one. Caught in the middle of a family feud, she would ultimately be executed by King James V of Scotland. She was sister to Archibald Douglas, the 6th Earl of Angus, who was the king's stepfather and very much hated by James, and with good reason. He imprisoned him as a boy. James held a grudge against Archibald and all the Douglas family, and in 1537 Janet was convicted of trying to poison James and witchcraft. However, such evidence proven difficult to obtain, so James had her servants and friends tortured until they gave him the evidence that he required. Janet was subsequently convicted and burned at the stake outside Edinburgh Castle on the 17th of July 1537, with her young son forced to watch. Shortly after her gruesome death, people witnessed the Grey Lady walking through the castle weeping. So the quick history of Edinburgh Castle. There has been a defensive fort on this site since the Iron Age, and in 638 AD it served as a defensive stronghold for the Celtic-speaking natives when the Germanic forces attacked and claimed the settlement. The Germanics changed its name from Din Eidin to Edinburgh for the first time. Then in 1296 it was overthrown by Edward I of Scots, and then again by Robert Bruce, who called for it to be burnt to the ground. It was rebuilt and became home to Mary Queen of Scots until she was exiled to England, after which the castle was then partially destroyed by the English, and then it was rebuilt again in 1574. James the 7th of Scotland lost his throne to William of Orange in 1688, and the Jacobite uprisings aside in the 18th century, and it has remained undamaged since. Brodie's Close Old Town. William Brodie is quite often compared to Thomas Weir by those who are familiar with the paranormal side of Edinburgh. Like Weir, Brodie was a well-respected member of society and was considered to be a master of his trade, manufacturing cabinets and the like. He was also the head of the Edinburgh Incorporation of Wrights and Masons, which repaired locks. Also like Weir, Brodie led a wicked secret life, which began when he copied the keys to a bank. Brodie went in to steal several £100 from the bank, which he used to support his family, along with 5 mistresses, none of whom knew about each other. William Brodie managed to maintain his secret life all lives for quite a while, but authorities began to grow suspicious of him and were eventually tipped off to his side business. Brodie realised he needed to get out of Edinburgh before the police came looking for him, and managed to make it as far as Amsterdam before being arrested and brought back to his home city for a trial. He was found guilty and sentenced to death by hanging. It was later said that Brodie attempted to survive the hanging by utilising his knowledge of carpentry and bribing the hangman. If this is true, it did not go according to plan, as Brodie was hung, buried, and his spirit soon began appearing in the area where he had his workshop and family home. Reports of William Brodie appearing in Brodie's close persistent to this day, and many who encounter his spirit claim that he is accompanied by a demonic fire-breathing horse as he strolls along. Greyfriars Kirkland Old Town. Greyfriars Kirkland, located in Old Town, is quite possibly the most haunted spot in all of Edinburgh. And that's really saying something. Since the first burial occurred on the site in the 16th century, a number of notable people have been laid to rest here. This includes Sir James Stirling, Alan Ramsay, Sir Harry Munro. Greyfriars Kirkland is also the final resting place of Greyfriars Bobby, a mutt beloved by the city of Edinburgh for guarding the grave of his owner for more than a decade after his death. If you've never seen the film, definitely Google it and see if you can watch it, Greyfriars Bobby. When Bobby eventually passed away, he was buried in an unconsecrated patch of land inside the cemetery gates. To this day, there are reports of Bobby's disembodied barks echoing throughout the graveyard, and some passerbys have reported seeing the dog standing still guard over the grave of his now long deceased master. Perhaps the most famous ghost of Greyfriars Kirkland is that of George Mackenzie, a barrister who was responsible for the deaths of thousands of Covenanters. Mackenzie's body rests in a large black mausoleum in the graveyard, a fitting colour for a man who created so much misery during his time on earth. Much poltergeist activity is reported in Greyfriars Kirkland Yard, as well as being attributed to George Mackenzie, unruly spirit, and many visitors to the cemetery have reported being shoved or hit when passing by his mausoleum. Some have even been knocked straight to the ground by a powerful ghost. It is said that sometime towards the end of the 90s, a homeless man broke into Mackenzie's mausoleum, hoping to find some shelter from the harsh Edinburgh weather. Once inside, the man decided to entertain himself with a spot of grave robbing, hoping he would find something valuable to sell. After forcing open a number of coffins inside the structure, the homeless man came to the coffin in which Mackenzie's body was laid decaying. Just before he could pry it open, however, a sinkhole developed beneath him, and the homeless man fell into a pit which was filled with the bones of peasants who were carelessly tossed into a mass grave during the plague. And given the fact that grave robbing is one of the most despicable crimes a person can commit, we can put this down to a rare good deed performed by George Mackenzie. Of all the Edinburgh ghosts, the Edinburgh vaults are far by the most popular, and the amount of paranormal activity reported herein almost unheard of. The vaults were first opened during the 18th century when Edinburgh was in a period of unprecedented growth. The vaults were initially intended to house taverns and cobblers and all the above, but ironically, underground businesses ended up being there instead. However, things began to go awry around 1795 when flooding led to a mass exodus and the vaults fell into a state of abandonment. Eventually, the vaults became home to some less than legal practices, including a number of brothels. Many of the city's poor were forced to take up residence in the vaults, and it has been reported that notorious serial killers Burke and Hare would visit one part of the vaults to find their victims and use another part of the vaults to store their bodies. Though this claim is unsubstantiated, the level of paranormal activity which occurs here on a daily basis would suggest that there have indeed been some evil dealings beneath Edinburgh's over the past couple of centuries. Much poltergeist activity has been explored in the vaults, particularly in one room, which is today in a state of perpetual darkness as any light bulb installed in the past would instantly explode. An investigation of the wiring turned up no logical explanation for the repeated rejection of light, and the general consensus among the paranormal community is that it was caused by the same spirit which has been known to push and pull anybody who dares to venture into this part of the vault. Culloden Moor in Inverness was the site of the last ever battle on British soil. The Battle of Culloden on the 16th of April 1746 was a bloody slaughter of the Jacobite rebellion, who wanted the Stuarts to return to the throne. In just 40 minutes of fighting, the entire army of Bonnie Prince Charlie's was dead. The chances of them succeeding were slim to non-existent as it is. The boggy ground was not suited to the Highland charge, and on top of that, the government forces vastly outnumbered them. They were also exhausted after several days marching back from England, where they had tried to drum up support for the battle. The battle started with a flurry of artillery fire from both sides, but this quickly became a one-sided affair as the government troops vastly outnumbered and outskilled the Jacobite forces. In just 20 minutes of artillery fire, the Jacobite lines were almost completely decimated. With Bonnie Prince Charlie sitting out the battle, they had nobody to take charge, and their hesitations ultimately provided their downfall. Finally taking it upon themselves, they decided to charge the government troops. The troops that managed to escape the artillery fire from the government troops were cut down as soon as they hit the enemy lines. Again, they were outthought, outclassed, as the government troops used a new method of attack against the Highland charge. Each soldier drove his sword or bayonet into a Highlander, directly facing the soldier to his right so that they could pierce underneath the Highlander's sword arm. The slaughter continued after the men were wounded and unable to fight, as government troops executed every man they could find, and the ones that managed to get away were hunted down and slaughtered. Bonnie Prince Charlie had evaded pursuing forces for 5 months throughout the Scottish Highlands, until he escaped to Italy via the Isle of Skye, never to return again. On the anniversary of the bloody battle of the Culloden Moor, ghosts of soldiers fallen are said to rise again, and the cries of the wounded and clanging of steel weapons are heard. On many occasions, similar reports have been made of a tall man with drawn features in tartan being seen roaming the area. When he's approached, he's heard mumbling the word "defeated." In 1936, there was a report from one woman who had lifted a tartan cloth covering one of the grave mounds, only to discover then the apparition of a severely wounded Highlander underneath it. Birds are said to never sing in the area surrounding these mounted graves, perhaps too afraid of the ominous atmosphere. There are also numerous wells around the area which are all said to be haunted. St Mary's Well in particular is supposed to be haunted by the ghosts of the dead Highlanders. Culloden Well also has some mystery surrounding it. It's supposed to offer cures for ailments with brightly coloured rags as the offering from sick people over the past. Achill Tower Castle Hotel in Wick, Caithness, Scotland, is tucked away in the Scottish Highlands and is one of Scotland's finest hotels. Achill Tower, celebrities and royal alike have called Achill their temporary home, but the magnificent castle walls hide a darker secret, the ghost of Helen Gunn. In the 15th century, the castle was owned by the Keith family, who were in a feud with the Gunn family. After several murders and revenge murders on either side, Helen Gunn was abducted by a member of the Keith family for her beauty. She either jumped or fell from the tower at the castle trying to escape, and she is now either seen as a green lady or as a lady in a long red ball gown with long black hair. Achill Tower has a long and involved history, first mentioned in history in 1538, and has been the catalyst for various feuds over the years. In the 14th or 15th century, when Helen Gunn was abducted, the Gunn family and the Keith family started feuding even more, which then led to the Battle of Champions. In 1547, the Sinclairs attacked and seized the castle, but Mary of Guise, who was then the regent of Scotland, and Mary Queen of Scots' mother, returned to the Keith family, but then she installed Lawrence Opulent, a keeper of Achill, in 1549. But the Sinclairs seized the castle once more. The castle changed hands a few more times after that, but then was sold legally to the Sinclairs in 1612. In 1699, the castle was then sold on to the Dunbars, who added extensions and renovations. And then in 1986, it was sold and underwent renovation for 2 years when it was then opened as a luxury hotel. So there we are. Look at that. I do love spinning with locks. It does need setting. It is overspun in certain parts, but that'll soon settle down once I stick it over the steam. Well, there we go. So that's fen locks used with today's advent of Rambouillet lavender. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. That'll definitely work in a project. Much to the dog's disagreement, she's just given it a snort. She's more than likely to be looking for a ball underneath the sofa, to be fair. So there we go. So yeah, quite happy with that. So I hope you enjoyed those stories I've just read over the top of me spinning this. It's quite an easy thing to do. Literally just, if you've never spun like that before, I might actually do a video in the new year of how to spin and add locks in to a single. But it is really simple, really easy to do. It's just about timing. And don't worry if you get parts that are overspun. You can fiddle over that, or just let the tension roll out when you're plying it up. Or just cover it over. Sometimes that's what I do, but by the time it's steam set or washed, all those extra twists really do calm down anyway. So yeah, so I've got blues and I've got greens so far in my advents, so I'm brewing a little project in my head for the new year. So there we go. So thank you very much. I shall try and get on with the rest of my day. I've got orders to get posted out this afternoon, wait for the other half to finish work at 2 o'clock, and then go out in that. I think we're expecting about 50-60 mile an hour winds hitting us right here on the coast of Cumbria. I know there's other parts of the country that are get it a lot worse than us, but thankfully there's no snow involved for the moment. You take care, have a lovely day whatever you're up to. Don't work too hard, and if you do, don't get caught up to mischief. See you later.